Hi everyone and welcome to Game Art. This is going to be the first in a numerous amount of videos. I have no idea how many it's going to be, but a lot of videos about particles and the particle systems available to you in Unreal Engine 4. Now, as I said, there are particle systems, meaning they're multiple. There are two. There's one called Cascade and one called Niagara. Niagara is the newer one, but Cascade is still very easy, user-friendly and available to you to use in Unreal Engine 4. So my approach to this is that I'm going to do a Cascade video, then Niagara video, a Cascade video, a Niagara video, and so on and so forth. And the idea being is that I'll show you how to do it in Cascade, then I'll show you how to do exactly the same thing, but in Niagara. And eventually we'll get to the point where I'll show you the difference between the two, and why Niagara is a bit more powerful, a bit more useful in the long run. So this episode is going to be an introduction to the Cascade system and how it works. So I'm going to go into Add New Particle System. There's this white one here. And I'm going to call this one, for now, Fireball, because this is going to be eventually be a Fireball particle system. Let me just rename this one. I typically like to do _PS for particle system at the end of it, but up to you how you organise your work. So when you open it up, this is what you're presented with. This is the Cascade particle system. Let's give a little quick rundown of what you're seeing here. So the viewport here in the top left is your preview of the particle system, okay? And this is the whole entire system, okay? So you're going to see everything in this viewport. Now on the right, you're going to have emitters. And at the moment, this one, by default, will only have one emitter. And this is the type of particle that's going to be emitted out. Think of emitters like the source, like a hose, for example, that is then shooting out all these particles at the end of it. That's what an emitter is. Inside of emitters, we have loads of options, but particularly we have these modules, and these individual modules are the settings available to you to change the particle's appearance. And it comes with some default ones, but you can also add a ton more by right-clicking on your emitter. And you typically add multiple emitters and overlay them on top of each other to add complex graphic visual effects to your game. On the left hand side at the bottom we have the details panel, and this changes based on which module we've got selected. Okay, so quite simply just go in there and that's where you change the settings for those modules. And finally we've got the curve editor. Now the curve editor is if you want something to change over time. You can use the curve editor to do less linear changes. You can do more custom stuff to get more interesting transitions between different settings. So to get started, we're going to make a fireball. Okay, and look at how we make a fireball, a fire effect inside of Cascade. So you have, on your emitters, you have the first emitter here. You have required and spawn. These two must exist, okay? You can't get rid of them, they must be there. The required one is a setting all about the initial appearance. So the material you're going to be using, its location where it spawns the emitter, and also the settings on the emitter itself. So that's the emitter's duration, if it loops, if it's delayed by any chance, and so on and so forth. There's loads of different settings here that you can mess about with. We will be going eventually into a lot of these settings over time, but I don't want to go into it one by one right now. So on the required, you can see you can change material here, and on spawn, that controls the actual spawn rate of your particles coming out of it at the top. Below that, we have different modules. We have lifetime, initial size, initial velocity, and color over life. So lifetime is how long each particle will exist. And at the moment, it's set it to minimum of 1 and a maximum of 1. That means this will last 1 second per particle. The spawn rate is doing a constant value of 20. Okay, that means it's going to spawn, always try and make sure there's 20 particles all the time. Okay, so once one is despawned, it will spawn another one. On the initial size, this is the size of the particle at the start, and we'll go into the distribution settings available to you in all of these modules, but essentially we're starting at 25, 25, 25 in X, Y, and Z. Initial velocity is speed and direction. So here we've got X and Y 10 and minus 10, and then Z with 150. So because the Z is positive, that means in both cases, that means the particles will always go up. Now the slight sway to left and right and back and forward is determined by the X and Y, because some are negative, some are positive. That means they'll have some horizontal and more lateral movement in the horizontal plane. We've also got colour over life as well, and that determines how what the colour is at the start compared to what the colour is at the end of each particle. We'll go into that in a moment. So to make a material work for a particle, it's best to make sure you go into material and set it up properly. So let's go ahead and set up a material for our fireball. So here I've imported in a rounded hex sort of shape, and I'm going to use this to create my low poly sort of cartoony sort of fireball. So I'm going to create material out of this, and like that, and open it up. Now to make this material work as best we can with the settings available to us in the particle editor, we want to make sure we set this up accordingly. So at the moment I've got a basic texture. I'm just going to change this to a flat plane so you can see the changes. I've got a basic texture going into a base colour. So first of all, I want this to be masked in itself, so I want to get rid of the black part of the image. So with the main node selected, go down to the bottom left and change the blend mode to masked. Once that, you want to then plug the RGB into a opacity mask. If your texture is a flat JPEG like mine is, with the black and white on the same layer, you use the RGB channel. If you have a separate alpha channel that holds that, you can just use the alpha channel here and plug it into a opacity map. It's up to you what you do there. But as you can see, it's now masked. I'm also going to make this two-sided. So next we need to add our particle system settings onto this. So to do that, right click, type in particle, and you want to look for particle color. And this is going to be the input data coming from the particle system. So whenever we use that, say that color over life, that's going to come into here, and then we can use this to combine with this to create our final color of our particle. So I'm going to drag this top input here and multiply it by our RGB value here. And hit apply. So now, because it's white, the colour will be multiplied onto it. So if I insert red, red plus white multiplied by white is just red. Okay, white is 1. So if you multiply anything by 1, it keeps it the same. So save that, and I'm going to close that and go back to my particle system. So inside my fireball here, we're going to go and add our material to our required module. So we're going there, and it's called hex rounded matte. It will compile the shaders, so you have to wait for those to finish compiling. Okay, so that's finished compiling. You may not see something. That's maybe because the lighting's a bit busted. So you rotate the camera around, the same controls as usual with UE4 stuff, and you can see it there. Okay. If you want to change the lighting in this, you can hold down the L key and left click to change where light is coming from on your particle. Okay. But more on that in a moment. Let me just put that there for now whilst we're working on it. So to create my fireball, I'm actually not going to have it rising up. Okay. I'm going to change, I still have some velocity on it, but I'm going to change a lot on the velocity here. So the velocity I'm going to change is the Z value. I don't want it going up in the air, okay, at least as much as that. So I'm going to change it to 10 and -5. You get this sort of weird spread going out. Okay. So the distribution settings we have available to us, if you click on the scroll box, you can see the available ones. This one's using the uniform, and the uniform takes a minimum maximum value, and it will choose a random value between these values. So in this case, it's choosing a random value between -10 and 10 in the X, -10 and 10 in the Y, and -5 and 10 in the Z value. So it'll be random, completely random in that case. Okay. Constant and constant curve, particle parameter, and uniform curve will come to when we get to it. Next, we're going to go is to the color over life. Now, because we set up the material to include the particle color input node, this will now have an effect on the material that we've plugged into it. So this one is using the constant curve vector. And the constant curve basically takes points that we can add, and we can display this on the curve editor if we like, but we're not going to in this case. We can add points, and these points determine what the value should be at a certain amount of time in its lifespan. So by default, it will come with 2 points, 0 and 1, and you have in value and out value, arrive tangent and leave tangent. So the in value is the amount of time that the thing has been alive, the particle has been alive. So 0 means at the start. 1 means at the end of its life. So at the start, my fire is going to be a sort of orange colour. Like so. And you can see the little orange coming through there. Next, I'm going to go and change my second one, my in value 1, and change the out value to that to red. And you can see now it appears as red. Now what I want to do is I actually want to change my in value to be 0.6 in this case, because I want it to be more red in the end. Okay, so next we're going to do is change its size over life. So it looks like it's diminishing into nothing. To do that, we're going to right click, go down to size, and add a size by life module. With that size by life, click on it. And we want to change it to, or make sure it's set to a distribution vector constant curve. And what this means is that we can insert a fixed value at the start of its life and then at the end of its life. So curves are when you can input lifespan. Constant means that you can just insert a single value. Uniform means it'll choose a random value between the two. So at 0, the out value is going to be a multiplier of 1. And at 1, at the end of its life, I'm going to change its out value to be a value of 0. So it looks like it gets smaller and smaller and smaller into nothing. Like so. Next, I'm going to do is I'm going to add a light to my fire. So on the module, I'm going to right click and add a light. And the light module comes with loads of different settings, but all you have to do in this case is just turn off the inverse squared fall off, and this will make the light brighter at its start all the time basically. So you get no fall off basically, and you can see it light up there, and that will light up the environment as well. So I'm going to hit save and close that. Now I can drag this into my world, and you can see it there. And this is the opportune moment to tweak its size settings. So at the moment you can see it's quite small. So let's tweak that size. So I'm going to initial size, and I'm going to change that to 50 by 50 by 50, 50, 50, 50. So it's now twice as big. Save. Let's have a look at that now. Okay, not too bad. Not too bad. We could do a little bit more. So go 75, 75, 75, 75, 75, like so. And the way the fireball is going to work is that when the particle system moves, particles don't follow their emitter straight away. They stay where they spawned, essentially, and continue with their settings. So as it's moving, it will look like it's leaving a trail behind it. See? So what we're going to do as well on top of this is add another emitter to give it a bit of variance to it. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to do exactly the same here, but I'm going to tweak a few settings. So the easiest way of doing that is by right clicking on an emitter and duplicate it. Now on the duplication here, I'm going to change the initial size down to a lot smaller. So I'm going to go back to 25, 25, 25, 25, 25, 25. And what else I'm going to do is I'm going to tweak the minimum values of these to be slightly off. Okay, so don't get some uniform shapes. So my minimum here, I'm going to change to 10, 10, 10. And now they come out a bit different shapes and sizes. I'm going to click save, and now when I move it, you should see other little particles also there. Okay. So to make that a bit more prevalent, I'm going to go and change the initial velocity as well, and tweak that a little bit out as well. So I'm going to keep the same sort of spacing, but I'm just going to times it by a little bit higher number. So I'm going to do that by 15, 15, and we'll do 15. This one's going to be minus 15, minus 15, and this one we'll do minus 10. Okay, so now they should erupt more out of the shape. Okay, I think they need to be a little bit bigger. So let's go back to our initial size. Or we can actually go by size by life. Size by life is a multiplier. So when you say at the start it's 1, 1, 1, that means it's going to be just the same size we set it at the start. But if I put in something like 2, 2, 2, it starts twice as big. Cool. Next I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the spawn rate of my little ones. So I'm going to click on the spawn. I'm going to change the constant value from 20 to 40. Save, and there we have our fireball effect. So to see that in actual action, we're going to make a quick actor to put that on. So I'm going to right click, create blueprint class, choose actor, fireball, and to add a particle system to it, it's just a component, particle system. And you want to click on it and set your particle system to it. And in this case, because it's a fireball, we're going to add a projectile movement to it. And the projectile movement, we're going to change its speed to 800 by initial speed and 800 max speed. I'm going to turn its gravity down to 0, and I'm going to give its velocity 1 in the x. Compile. So now, if I push play, oh, that's not actually it, that's just a particle. Let's drag the fireball out and just rotate it around so it goes where I want it to. You can see it there flying through the sky. Pretty neat. Right, again. So now what if you wanted a bit of smoke on its tail? So smoke, I'm going to take my particle emitter here, and I'm going to duplicate that again. And this one's going to be the smoke. Now the smoke is going to change its colour, obviously. And the colour for this is going to be sort of ashy colours. So I'm going to go into our greys. Like so. And I'm going to leave all the other settings for it alone. But what I'm going to do is going to make them delay their emitter on this. So I'm going to go down to required and delay the emitter a little bit. So I'm going to go 0.2 there. Hit save, and let's have a look how that looks. Okay, so that way it looks okay. We just need to put then offset it so it starts at the end of the towel. So to do that, we're going to change the emitter with it selected, change the emitter origin in the X by minus 10. No, let's do minus 50. So it starts off over here, okay? But as it's moving, it means it starts off a bit more to behind it. I'll offset that quite a bit more, I think. Let's do minus 300. But because we've got that delay on it, it shouldn't start spawning straight away. So I need to increase that delay, I think, on it. Let's delay it by 1. Okay. I think that looks pretty good. And there you go. So not only have we learnt the basics of the Cascade particle system, but we've also gone through the process of creating a fireball. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see the Niagara version of this, head over to patreon.com/RyanAiley, where I'll show off how to do this in the same effect but in Niagara. Thanks very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like and comment what other particle systems you'd like to see being made. Thanks very much, and I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.